Well, good afternoon, everyone. We want to would like to encourage you to participate actively in the chat. When you chat, be sure to select all panelists and attendees. Remember that closed caption is available for this session if you choose to select it. Please share your questions through the QA button. Actually, we won't have QAs this time, so we really hope you enjoyed this session. We want to thank our conference sponsor, Open Society Foundation, and we have a short video.
What is a challenge you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Open Society Institute has been working with IIRP and other partners for many years to create a healing and restorative Baltimore City.
Avoiding all of the bullying.
Our RP journey began with Baltimore City Public Schools. A one-year RP intensive pilot with 15 schools showed a whopping 44% decrease in out-of-school suspensions. Teachers also reported substantial improvements in school climate and relationships overall. Please see our RP materials for your use on the conference website.
All right. Again, on a global scale, Open Society Foundation works with more than 120 countries to shape public policy that promotes democratic governance, human rights and economics, legal and social reforms. The organization has been instrumental in furthering restorative practices in local schools and communities, and we appreciate their ongoing support. Well, we formed a virtual community on January 25th. And since that moment, we've engaged in the following shared learning experiences. We're going to show you a quick video, and I want you to watch it because we want to do a poll right after that. So watch where we've been over these last few days.
Trying to address these issues in that way. And of course, things will happen rather slowly, but they will happen at the speed of empathy, and they will happen at the speed of trust.
Another must-have is to instill in students the desire to have an impact in kind of whatever their passions, where their passions lie.
No one likes working in a place where their employer makes them feel unappreciated. Likewise, students need to feel like school isn't just a place to learn, but also to develop those interpersonal and leadership skills. That can only happen if they feel visible and heard in their educational space.
If we're really going to think about restoration as it relates to planetary health and community well-being, a cornerstone of any restorative process is the discontinuation of harm, right?
I can use this everywhere. I'm gonna actually now use the circle tool to establish agreements and what we're accountable to and for when I go and work with this community group. And and so there's this natural growth of how the tools work and how successful they can be.
We've had a lot going on. So we want to do a little bit of a poll, and I think Ben is putting that in for us. Please let us know What's impacted you? The poll is posting now. What has impacted you the most at the conference? Please go right ahead and give us your thoughts. What is it that has impacted you the most? That's good. Wow, you guys are working fast. Great. Let us know exactly what you thought. We're getting there. 93. Good, good, good. All right. So Ben is going to tally all of that for us, and we will get results.
You should see that now, Henry.
Okay. So environmental justice, reimagining education, workplace panel, exhibition hall. Right. So reimagining education panel got the most. That's great. Now we have a lot of folks who are teaching and in the education field, so that's great. Environmental justice, it's very high. This is great. That's a great question. Someone was asking, where did we find the art and poetry exhibits? Sure, we'll have someone that'll be able to respond to that for us. All right. So what we like to do, you've shared the numbers. We want to put you into breakout groups where we can you can talk about specifically what is it that has, what's impacted you. What conference session, topic, discussion impacted you the most and why? This was impactful to me because of what? So we're putting together the breakout groups. We're going to give you about 20 minutes to be able to share with each other that question. And then we'll come back and have some reflection. We want to use this time for us to really reflect on the impact of the conference and what we might do with it. Okay. I think it looks like we've got 104 people that are in. Great. Folks are going to their groups. Hey, Jeff, good to see you. Alistair. We've got 6 that are unassigned. We'll get you in just a minute here. There'll be nobody left behind. We will get you in a group momentarily. Julia, you said you can't unmute yourself? Okay.
Need help, Henry, assigning? I can tell you what rooms.
Oh, I'm trying to do it as we go along here too.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry, and I just I did enable people to unmute themselves since we
Okay.
were sharing back after, so.
Julie, are you able to unmute now? Sharice?
Feel silenced.
Yes, sir. I was in a room, but my partner, I guess, wasn't there. So I was just talking to myself.
Oh, okay.
So can I be put in a different room, please?
Which room were you in? I'm trying to find you on here.
Their name was Agnes, Agnes, I think, Strucker or something.
Oh, and which room were you in? Because I have to move you to another room. Just looking through.
I think it was either 34 or 38.
It was 35.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'll move you to another room. That's good. Hopefully somebody will be in there.
Thank you.
Sure.
How long is the breakout, Henry? Is it worth me?
20 minutes.
Oh, 20 minutes. Oh, okay. I guess it is worth my joining.
Is there anybody here that needs to get assigned to a different room, or it's okay if you want to bow out?
Ben, you can throw me in one.
I don't even see you.
I'll join a room.
Oh, okay.
Or you can put, I was just saying you can put Jen and me in a room together.
I'll put you both in room
Awesome.
4. I can find Julia. I don't know where you were assigned originally.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
I got her. What room do you want to put her in?
I don't
4?
at 1 with 2 if you see one.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause the
There you
recording.
go. Looks like. I think the gang's all here. Welcome back. So I think we had 40 different groups. So want to give a few of you an opportunity to share kind of what was the highlight, what was the driver. It'll be helpful if you use your reaction, raise your hand, and that'll be easier to find you rather than flipping through several screens. So what stood out? Kind of share with the group what was going on in your group. Okay. C. Robinson too. I see you.
Hi, everyone. I am Audrey. My middle name is Audrey. That's my username. I don't know why they don't have my real name there, but getting back on topic. I was in a group with Alistair, and Alistair was from Scotland via now working in Kenya, and Keisha was from Maryland, right? And because I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and we're probably no less than 20 miles from each other, but Alistair, I want you to know that Keisha lived in England, so he didn't hear that before we had to leave. But what stood out in our group, and I'll say this, I am the school liaison for restorative practice in Alexandria, Virginia. This is my first time being involved with it, but what I learned was it is so much more bigger than education. That was one of the most important things to me that stood out, and how global it is and how it encompasses environment, your just everything. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm just so glad to be on, to have the privilege to have this opportunity to experience it.
Appreciate you sharing that. And
Yes,
you said
sir.
you're from Alexandria, Virginia?
Yes, sir. By way of Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, sir.
Okay. Great. Somebody else. What did you hear in your group? What stood out? What was the driving force for you? Okay, I have Tara.
Hi, thank you. What I want to share is just my conversation with, there was only one other person in our room, and Paige is over in Ottawa, Canada, and I'm in Santa Cruz, California, so we're coastal here. But I left that conversation and I'm leaving this conference with great hope in restorative practices as being more of a norm and less of a, oh, hey, I got a great idea, let's have a conversation. And that is so progressive, and I think so needed in our culture and our way of attending to disruption and behavior and harm and trauma. So I'm super stoked to have been a part of this conference, and thank you all so much for all of your care and creativity and presencing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tara. Appreciate that. I've got Julita Brown Dunn. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, yes, you did. Thank you.
And tell us where you're from.
I am from the DMV. I too work in Alexandria, Virginia. I am the Dean of Students and the Restorative Practices Liaison at my school. I had the pleasure of speaking with Sue, who was from the Edgewater area. I don't know. She said she was in Utah. I'm not sure where she is now. Sue spoke, and we talked about session with uplifting student voices, and we talked about how moving and just how, you know, from students who are actually who are doing the work. And they had a lot to say, they had a lot to bring to the table. They talked about how we can make this process work, how you can involve families. And we were just really, I thought that was a really great inspiration for me to try to get students more involved because they can. And so it was really great hearing from the students.
Good. Thanks so much for sharing. We appreciate that. Got Duran Bell. Tell us where you're from.
Hey, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. And what was good for me is actually twofold. I got a chance to talk with Taryn, who's up in Canada, but to be able just to continue having conversation about the onboarding process, implementation of the practices, evaluating them, sustaining the work, and actually, as much as we seek to empower and build relationships, but then for those of us that are, you know, here, a part of the conference, networking and building relationships with people across the country. I'll make this short. The second part was in my exhibit hall. A music teacher, Andrew, who's in Bethlehem, working with 4th and 5th graders and high school students, who chimed in, who we could immediately just relate to the artistic side, but then how are we implementing the practices? How are they measurable and other outcomes? And then setting that aside, how it impacts ourselves and keeping us restored. And so this has been more than amazing. And that's it.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to make sure I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Charisse? Okay.
Correct.
Where are you from?
I am from Tennessee, kind of like the southeast part near Chattanooga.
Okay.
But originally from Nashville.
Okay.
So I really came to this training because I needed some more tools for my toolbox. And I was starting to understand why they talk about teacher burnout. And I never imagined I would get to that point. So I was like, no, I love restorative practices. I'm going to go to this training. It's going to fill my bucket full. And actually, I really like the fact that y'all did some of the online trainings that aren't live. I was digging through some of those, like I had to pull out my notebook. The Bringing Restorative Practices into Your Classroom with Claudine Miles and Kimberly Milton. Phenomenal. And they gave me resources. And then the one with the Reimagining Schools, the Restorative Responses to Adversity, that was the one I was on recently. It I don't even know, it just rejuvenated me, and it made me feel like, one, I wasn't the only one, and there are other struggles going on, and maybe I could try this point, or maybe if certain people aren't open to it, I can just continue to do it in my room, because I do circles in my room, period. just maybe thinking of it a different way. So I really appreciate everyone on this call and who all put this training together. You really fueled my fire for teaching again.
That is awesome. I just want to say too, I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes dealing with restorative practices, trying to get it implemented, it can feel like you're on an island by yourself. And one temptation might be, you know, since nobody else is doing it, I'm not going to do it. I want to passionately encourage you. My grandmother used to say, if nobody else does the right thing, make sure you do the right thing. And I want to say that to you all. If nobody else is being restorative in your space, you be restorative, because whether it's working with students or adults, you will have transformational impact on their lives. And once you start, others will come along. So please, please stay at it. I'm glad that you came here. That's part of what this conference is for. Thanks for sharing that. Katie, where are you from? That is profound, but we couldn't hear a single
sorry.
word. That's okay. Go ahead.
The announcements are going right now, but I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and I am also liaison. And this, I did it to help out my admin. Just there weren't any volunteers, and now I'm really passionate about it. And everything Cherie said, literally, she took the words right out of my mouth. So I just want to say I'm thankful for this experience, and I can't wait to be trained and help as much as I can. And being a teacher is that island is true. And I'm in our small group, we talked about how it's nice that there's the young people who are just like doing it and they're hopeful. And I just want to say I am joining in on that hope. So thank you.
Awesome. Laronica, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did. And hello, thank you for this opportunity.
Where are you from?
I am so sorry. I am from Las Vegas, Nevada. I am the School of Climate and Equity Education's Programs Professional with the Nevada Department of Education. This is a fairly new role for me. However, I am really, truly grateful to be in a position to influence this change of restorative practices within our schools and districts. Although we do have policy aligned with restorative approaches, there's some misunderstanding and some I guess I should say having to take a back step and reteach what restorative practices is within our districts and schools. And so I got a chance to collaborate in our breakout room with Hannah from Kansas. And we had a conversation about taking universal precaution. And so one of my main takeaways from a breakout room I was in yesterday was I think the breakout room was titled Building Social Capital by Being Restorative. And I went into a breakout room that was discussing being trauma informed. And I don't know who it was, but I believe someone is in this room mentioned being trauma informed versus trauma responsive. And so gleaning from all of the experts in the room, I was, in summary, it was just being trauma responsive starts with creating a space and a climate that allows students to make social connections. This begins the healing process and empowers students to have tools to overcome. This is restorative, and this is taking a universal precaution. And so I'm truly grateful, and I know great things are going to come from this. So thank you.
We appreciate that. I've got Shannon Ferry. Shannon, where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we were just talking in our group. I was with Brooke and Agnes, and we had such a great conversation in such a short amount of time, but we were talking about how it was just so great with to see like the global group that is at this. And we were saying like we're all fighting the good fight, and it's just nice to see other people that are just outside of our own little world, and to see that there is a lot of support out there. And we kind of both, we all said that, you know, something that stuck out to us was the comment about how saying you're restorative, but then not being restorative. And it struck a chord differently with each of us. And it was just interesting to see how we all interpreted that in our own way, but each way made so much sense. And, you know, and just another thing that I love, just being in the groups, the small groups, and sharing and seeing the posters, and, you know, speaking with those individuals and just getting a different perspective about everything. It was just great.
That's awesome. Is there one more reflection from your breakout group? All right. If not, I've got a second question for you. Our hope is that you learn some things, build relationships, but also want you to reflect on what it is you intend to do. If you think about it, one thing you intend to do as a result of having attended this conference, is there a conversation you need to have with someone? Is there training that you need to have? We're going to put you back in the small groups to share that with your colleagues, and then we'll bring you back. Is there a conversation you need to have? Is there some investment you need to make, or training that you need to acquire? Okay, so we're going to put you back into groups again. What am I going to do? What do I think I'm going to do as a result of this? What's the value add? How many of you have been to a conference, got a bunch of books and everything, and it was awesome, and you haven't touched that book since you left the conference, right? Or the training, right? We want you to explore what can I actually do with this, okay? So Ben is gonna.
How much time do they have, Henry?
We'll give them another 20 minutes. They can share and reflect. Let's put them in groups of 4 or 5.
I was gonna use the same rooms, so.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Open all the rooms again.
Okay.
And then we'll get a 1-minute warning.
Yeah. So what am I going to do with what I've gotten? See you back in a few. And she wasn't quite sure how to set it up. And so when he got to her house to see what she was doing, she said she opened up the instructions and it said open windows. So she went around her house and opened all her windows. Anyway.
I mean, that might work. That might work with technology these days.
Open windows.
All right.
I'll remember that joke.
Oh my gosh. If his mom is a baby boomer, that's let you know is we follow instructions. We do
right.
I had a guest teacher one time, and I left the notes that said, you know, this video is on the desktop, meaning the computer desktop. And he said, I looked all over on your desktop and I could not find it. He was speaking on my literal desktop.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. So the question was, what's one thing you intend to do as a result of having attended the conference? And so, again, we'd like to give you an opportunity to share a few examples. What you're going to do may inspire someone else. So who'd like to go first? If you use your, what those things called, your reaction button, so I can see your hand, that'll help you bring you up in front. What are you going to do? What did you talk about in your group? Nobody talked about what they were going to do in their group. Okay, I've got Linda.
I made a list of all sorts of great people I'd like to have conversations with. So I have a list of people to call and schedule one-to-one time.
Good. Okay, I've got Tiffany.
Yes, I talked about being intentional on coming back and looking at the resources and videos whenever I can, to make sure that I am continuously giving myself information and reminders that we're all out there and we're all connected and we just have to keep going.
Good. Sharice.
I wanted to talk to admin about doing the quarterly meetings, the restorative meetings, to refresh teachers on it. Also, doing a parents' night, basically teaching them restorative practices to get the parents more on board. And then the last thing, and probably the most important, refreshing myself on restorative practices and making sure that I am not only being seen using them, but I am also continuing to use them.
Good. Got Miss Andrea.
Andrea, yes.
Andrea, okay.
Great conversation with Karen. Thanks, Karen. And throughout the conference, I was writing down some quotes and shares from the chat. So I'm going to kind of incorporate that. I'm actually going to make some posters. I'm an art teacher, so I'm going to kind of put some little paint spatters, but the quotes that many of the attendees dropped in the chat are going to be scattered throughout my room. So thank you for the people that made my day and made this conference awesome. It was so awesome. I'm so glad I participated, but there's so many great things. I'm going to have to take a minute to really go through all of the resources so I can kind of extract what I want to use. And hopefully my staff will get trained collectively in the fall so that we can all be on the same page. Because right now there are only two of us that really understand it.
Where are you?
In Cleveland, Ohio, at John Adams College and Career Academy, myself and Shadina Chapman, who's on the conference with us today. So we're the only two trainers in the building.
Oh, wow.
So we did a little kind of a introduction to the staff in the beginning of the month. However, we want everyone to understand the language. So we're only speaking to each other.
Okay. Well, again, just keep at it. You will have more, trust me.
Thank you.
All right, Sergio Rodriguez.
Hi. Wait a minute. Start my video. Okay, can you see me now? Maybe not yet.
No,
okay,
there
so
we go.
I'm interested. I didn't get a chance to really talk about this in a group, but during the course of the conference, what I would really like to do, I work in the Northeast. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut, and what I'd like to do is to get a list of those attendees that live in the Northeast area and begin a support group for us. Kind of connect with everyone, maybe a monthly, Zoom in call or a monthly conference call where we can all talk about what best practices are going on, how we're engaging community, and do those kinds of things. So what I'm hoping to do is to organize, do a little bit of, I don't want to call it community organizing, but organizing around those folks who are doing the work in the Northeast section, Maine, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New York, and maybe Pennsylvania, and just try to see if we can organize something where we can meet and talk about what's going on, what's happening, what are the new things. That's what I would like to end up doing after the conference.
Thanks, Sergio. We appreciate that. So those in the Northeast, possibility of putting together a support group there. That's great. My friend Ari.
Yes. I think in our group, there was a small consortium, small but strong consortium of a need for sleep, maybe some authentic body movement, maybe some ritual building, or, maybe some listening to nature, as we were recommended to do yesterday. So yeah, it's been good, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Tell them where you are, Ari.
Oh, I'm physically located in New York, right above New York City right now. Yes.
Okay, great. Randy, where are you?
Hi, I'm from Maine, and I just wanted to share a positive statement as we close out. After the conference today, I'm headed out to meet a 9-year-old and their family because this 9-year-old set fire to a neighbor's car. But the positive here is that the police chief knows of our organization and the work we do and decided to have us get involved rather than summons the 9-year-old. So there is positive change happening out there.
That is great. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I want to give you just a moment. Think about someone, another participant who has either said something or encouraged you. And I want you to just take a moment, find them in the chat, and just express to them why you appreciated their participation. Just a word or two. Find someone on the chat that has impacted you during the course of our session, and just send a personal note to them to share what it is that you appreciated about their contribution. Give you just a couple of minutes for that.
Oh, the motherfucker. He is clocking people. I'll be there.
Henry, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that was hilarious.
Part of restorative practice is being able to lip read. Now, listen, want to thank all of you so much for your participation in our conference. We also want to say a special thanks to all of our sponsors. First of all, Open Society Foundation, which is the conference sponsor, and then to each of our three event sponsors, which included Advisor Pro and New Press and Designed Learning. We so appreciate them sponsoring both the conference and special events that and workshops that have taken place throughout the conference. The second thing I'd like to do is to share with you that we are going to do, actually, I've got a quick video for you first. So let me turn it over to Ben, who's going to show a quick video for us. So there's the announcement, October 2nd through the 4th in October. We're going to do another in-person conference, and I'd like to introduce, well, you met Kenyatta Stevens. She was one of the panelists yesterday. She's the president and CEO of Black Family Development, and for the second time, because we hosted the conference in Detroit a few years ago, Black Family Development will be our host partner. And we have a greeting from her that we'd like to show you at this moment.
Greetings, global community, from the amazing city of Detroit, Michigan. My name is Kenyatta Stevens, and I have the pleasure of serving as President and CEO of Black Family Development Incorporated, headquartered here in the amazing Detroit, Michigan. I have exciting news. We are pleased as an organization to co-host with the International Institute of Restorative Practices the first return to in-person conferencing. IIRP will host the next World Conference beginning October 5th, 2023 here in Detroit, Michigan. The theme for this amazing conference is Building Thriving Communities, a radical approach through restorative practices. As a result of this conference, we're asking attendees who represent various systems across the globe to convene here in this amazing community in order to think through how to instill the values and the philosophy and science of restorative practices into our day-to-day work as we think through systems that benefit the families, children, and communities that we serve. So those of you who are engaged in the education world, the justice world, working with youth and families, the government community, we invite you, come to Detroit and learn together with us about how to infuse restorative practices to change the globe.
I want to thank Kenyatta. So again, I want you to save the date. And actually, I mean, like now, grab your phones, put the date October 2nd through the 4th, October 2nd through the 4th, 2023 in Detroit. Yeah, just pull out your phone and tag it in. We will have a lot more information for you because you have been at this conference. You will get notification about registration and more detail about the different workshops and things that we'll have going on. But please save the date. Repeat after me. Save the date.
Can you say the date one more time?
Sure can. October 2nd through the 4th, 2023. October 2 through the 4th, 2023, in person in Detroit. It's a lovely time to be in the city. We'll have a ton of different things for to make you aware of. And again, I think the last time we had close to 600 people that attended. I think it was, my recollection, 27 different states. Was it 9 Canadian provinces and 7 foreign countries? So we want to top that, and you can
I have
help
a
make that
question.
difference.
What is the rationale for doing another World Conference before the end of the year? Like, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, well, one of the goals is to be able, as someone mentioned earlier, being able to do it in person, where people actually get to meet, have closer contact. And things are opening up now, so we thought it would be an appropriate time to pull that together. And plus, we actually always had, I guess, conferences. Sue, correct me if I'm wrong. We often did 2 conferences a year. Actually,
Right, that's right.
yeah. So we're just continuing, kind of going back to what our pattern had been. And because restorative practices is now expanding so much, we want to give people multiple opportunities to experience kind of what you've experienced here virtually. And we want to give, there's some folks that they're zoomed out. We will give them an opportunity to be in person as well. Thanks for asking.
And maybe, Henry, if I can add to what you just mentioned. So traditionally, before 2020, we would have world conferences in the fall. We're trying to go back to that, but also to consider other times of the year that might be good for people. So we're hoping to invite all of you to a summer event in 2024. But we were really eager to get back to in person. And when we started doing that, a lot of the venues were already full because everybody wants to go back to in person. And yet we had this amazing opportunity in Detroit on the dates that Henry shared. So we're looking forward to it. And hopefully we can also open for some options in other times of the year.
Great. I think that is it. I'm so glad we had this time together. Actually, I'm showing age again, if nobody knows what that song is. Thank you so much for your attendance. And again, we appreciate all of our sponsors. And we wish you the best as you continue to advance restorative practices. And the IIRP.org is there to assist you if we can. So please reach out to us.